We're going to go through Space Station's great win today over SK Gaming. 2-0, dude. But you guys are pretty much seem like you have a pretty clear shot, at least to the playoffs.
Yeah, it's really nice. The only thing that I don't like about it is that everybody's saying like, "Oh, these are these are fantastic upsets." Da 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 da. Da. And it's not an upset. I don't get why they keep saying that.
I wouldn't have called your guys' match an upset, but we definitely have seen some over the course of the first couple of days. I mean, look, I think the big thing, the question that was always hinging on whether there'd be success for Space Station was whether you and RF were at your best or below your best. You know, the fall season was kind of was a down season for you guys. Everyone has one of those. But the way you guys are playing right now, especially we talked about this before going on the video or going live. Your second game last week in the opening match was a thing of brilliance against Queso. So if you guys are playing like this, there's no such thing as an upset in the conversation.
Yeah, I think okay. So if you include No Tilt Worlds, or like the No Tilt thing, I think I went 4-0 in sets, but I think RF went 6-0 in sets. So in 2020 right now, I'm a combined 6-0, and he's a combined like 8-0.
Yeah.
In 2v2. Like right now, we're playing really well.
Yeah, it's really, really nasty. And I'm actually going to give you, I do like my numbers. Everyone knows I like my numbers. I'm going to give you some numbers right now. You and Nick, you and RF, now both are tied for the most 2v2 games won in CRL careers for the West. You
52.
both 52. There you go, 52 games won, and that's only counting regular season numbers, no postseason numbers. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, that's just regular season numbers. 52 games won. You add in postseason, it gets gets different on top of that. And then you guys are also, because of that, the highest, have the most wins as a duo out of anybody. So that's pretty cool. Those are some pretty cool numbers.
I did not know that. That's awesome.
And
How
go ahead.
do you know how close RF is to hitting 100 wins overall, or has he already hit it?
RF as overall wins, not counting postseason, is at 73.
Okay.
73.
Do you have the numbers including postseason or no?
I don't have the postseason numbers. He does have the most games played overall at 136.
Whew.
Yeah, that's quite a lot.
Oh, yeah. We were laughing about that because I'm pretty sure he has the most losses too, right?
Let's see. He doesn't. He is second on most wins at 73 behind Canario's 82. And
Okay.
yes, I'll give you the data right now. He has the most losses of anyone in CRL, 63. The next closest is Wings at 52.
Whew.
But hey, a 54% win rate over 136 games, nothing to hold your nose at this level of gameplay.
Absolutely.
So let's see some questions. Some people asking about the card ban, and I know at least that what happened was that you guys were late with getting your rosters in, and that was the penalty for the late submission. Is there anything more that happened there that people should know about?
No, that's pretty much it. It was just miscommunication, maybe like an email didn't go through kind of thing, and we just didn't get to do it.
Hey, let me check before we kick off to the full breakdown portion of it. Chat, does AC's audio sound fine to you, or is it clipping? Because I can't tell if it's just my headphones or if it's actually going out to you guys that way. So, chat, let me know if the audio is good, and if it is, we'll go ahead and I'm going to record this portion for the video. If not, I'll fix it real quick. Brano just joined. It's kind of buzzy. Sounds good. Oh, it's kind of buzzy, but there's no clipping. Okay, that's all I care about is the clipping. Great. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the gameplay from the day. And, of course, those guys in the chat, we're going to go ahead and do I'll talk about Liquid/Igor's performance today. If AC still sticks around for that, great. But right now we're going to focus on Space Station and SK. And let's go ahead and take a look at that first game of Space Station and SK. So let me go ahead and bring up the decks as long as we're talking about those. Let me look up your info for a second. What were you guys planning on banning against SK Gaming? Was it NATO?
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys do tend to go with a NATO ban. So here we are looking at game number 1 of this one, and they got Princess aggressive really, really early, like right out the gate. I was kind of surprised by this deck. I believe this was the what looked like a bait deck turned into a graveyard deck. Were you guys caught off guard by this?
No. We knew that with no NATO ban, the likelihood of just like a normal bait deck was pretty low. So as soon as they did the Rascals, we were like 90% sure it was going to be Graveyard.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't something that we see a whole lot. Like, I mean, Andrew and I were both kind of like, whoa, this is a bit of a shift. What was it? It was just that you see two big tank units up front, and you feel like, oh, this is going to be Graveyard, and NATO being around means it's not going to be Goblin Barrel?
Yeah, we knew Rascals Graveyard was pretty popular earlier CRL seasons. And so, especially with Princess Rascals, it's like Rascals, I feel like just cycle too slow for it to be like a high pressure, just bait barrels and wall breakers.
So we haven't quite gotten to that moment yet in this opening game. But it really felt like, from our perspective, that the King Tower activation after the Goblin Brawler went across ended up kind of being the deciding factor. Is that this game or is that the next game? Yeah, with this that was this game. Yeah, so here's the Brawler that's going to go across and get activated. Do you think that played a pretty big role in how the rest of the game went?
Yeah, absolutely. We got kind of lucky because I think they. I don't know if you can activate it. Never mind. I didn't know that it was on the outside tile. Um, but it definitely changes a lot. It's not the end of the world just because now that NATO activates King Tower, like we don't have to worry about certain things that we would have otherwise. But yeah, it definitely changed a lot about the game.
So this moment kind of felt like it was a chance for it to swing in your favor a little bit, as you see that they went for a really early aggressive graveyard freeze and got nothing out of it. Um, obviously the King Tower activation played a role. I believe, if I remember correctly, that the finish here ends up being relatively close. Oh yeah, this is the one where the Rascal Girl goes ham on it. How are you guys feeling at this point in the game? You're heading into sudden death overtime. You're a little bit behind, but not a lot. But they did just kind of throw 9 elixir at nothing.
Yeah, we knew that once it hit like really late game, that was gonna be our like one chance. So as long as we play like pretty good defense, we definitely have a good shot at winning.
And then,
Um,
oh, this is not the moment. Yeah, I was gonna say you were leading. I thought you were leading up to that time. It was gonna be perfect for the Rascal Girl that escapes, but that was actually the proper delivery. Obviously, you two are in the same house, as opposed to, or Morten and Sam are also in the same house. We did see some teams today, though. Liquid struggled in the 2v2, and I don't believe that Diego and Canario are on the same continent even. How much of a difference has it been being side by side with RF for this stuff?
pretty huge. We are in the same time zone, so it's like definitely not as massive as it could be. Like if you take like Diego B and Canario, one of them being in Spain and one of them being in America, especially with like coronavirus happening where everybody's sleep schedules are already kind of weird. It makes their lives so much more difficult just to like set up practices and everything.
It felt like this moment we just saw, that freeze. If that prince connects, this is a totally different game here.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was really, really well timed on their end.
And that could have been, I mean, a split second difference, and that's just a dead freeze. Like, that's a full Prince charge connect, and you spent freeze on it, which would have been a huge waste. So, what was your plan? You guys, I mean, obviously, I can see you guys spreading out pretty well here. And this is the moment on the right hand side. The Dark Goblin comes in. What happened here on the right hand side? Dark Goblin comes in. The freeze doesn't get the Rascal Girl. Was it just a choice between the princess, or was this a miscalculation?
A little bit of both. It was because the princess shooting is so detrimental to us. So like we need the retarget from the princess. And I thought I was gonna be able to like just clip everything.
So you can see here, it looked like you guys were going to steal this one back, another defensive freeze. And this is just one of those things where a little bit of RNGesus doesn't give you guys anything, not to mention the King Tower activation. Did you guys think you were going to win this one at that moment? I mean, also, you're seeing them not spend spells offensively. Were you guys surprised by that finish?
So how much was the HP on their tower at the end? Was it 71?
Yeah, let me go ahead and bring it back just a little bit here. I'll run this one back so we can see that end again. So here we go. Yeah, so you guys get it down. You guys do get it on 71 HP. And you see here's where you get stalled out a bit. It's at 355, 331. And yeah, you guys are behind by 71.
Yeah, that would have been two skelly shots. I I think it was like close. Okay, so what it was it was closer than I expected at the beginning, and then in the final 3 seconds, I thought we were gonna win. But with 10 seconds to go, I was like, okay, I don't. We just got to spam everything. We got to do what we can, and then right at the end, I thought it was gonna flip for us.
So I guess a question for me in this one, and we'll go ahead and take a look at the decks for a second. This is what you guys were running up here on top, or this is here on the left. I guess is what you guys were running. The little Royale API setup is a little bit. Let me go ahead and zoom this out a bit so we can see a little bit more. I think that'll help us out a bit. So this is what you guys are running here on the left. And the Goblin Cage ends up being a really interesting question, right? Because it was the Goblin Cage that went opposite direction and got the King Tower activation. Obviously, with NATO banned, or with NATO banned, you're not worried about that. But is this a situation where if you're playing... I mean, first of all, are you banning NATO every time you play GY? Is that kind of the thought process?
It just depends. There's always like a pretty big discussion as to like why we want to ban something for specific teams.
What was the thought about the ban for NATO? That I know not happening, but what was the thought about that ban for SK specifically?
We had a few decks that we thought would work really, really well against them with a NATO ban.
Okay. Let me go ahead and take a look at some of the chat here for a second. Let's see. Blah, blah, just some nothing. Let's see. You should probably say that Royale API overlay. Apparently, Inferno Tower is used more in 2v2. That's one of the questions being asked by the chat. In retrospect, I mean, obviously hindsight's 2020. Looking at this and knowing NATO's in play, you're playing Graveyard. Would you run this with Goblin Cage again, or would you just think different with the deck?
We would still run it with Goblin Cage. King Tower activation is pretty detrimental, but we think just like with the synergy, it's a necessary thing to have.
Fair enough. Let's go ahead and I don't know where we are in this, but I'm going to go ahead and switch back over here, and we'll bring up the. There's some of myself and Andrew. Let me fast forward us a bit to our second game. So did your deck choice for game number 2 change at all, having lost game 1, or did you already have something locked in you were planning?
We always are choosing based off what our opponents are running. Even if we win, we still take a look at everything and analyze and see if we're going to be able to get a good matchup. And we just thought, minor wall breakers and minor bait kind of thing. It's a safe choice, and we feel if we can get a matchup that's like 45-55 or even 40-60 sometimes, then that's a good matchup for us. And minor's sometimes easy to get those kind of things, and so we felt confident going into game 2.
All right, here we go. I'll show you guys the pretty version of this thing. Hold on, let me go ahead and adjust it a little bit. I have some of these different overlays are like how they pop up and stuff like that can be challenging. There you go. There's the pretty overlay here for game number 2. So you guys went with the minor wall breakers and Skelly Barrel combo up against this one, and this was that deck. Andrew and I talked about it a bit. We saw this a lot in CRL Asia, the giant double prince with Rage. Was this one of the decks you were planning on going up against when you were thinking about SK today?
A little bit. SK. I don't know what it is, but like when I think of Sam, I can see him running, giant double prince kind of things in their 2v2s. So we definitely prepared for it a little bit, but we were still caught off guard just at the beginning. But we were able to recognize it really quickly. Like as soon as they do the double prints, we were pretty sure it was going to be giant.
Of course, you guys were running double prints with Graveyard and had Andrew and I fooled for a couple of moments there. So,
yep.
Let's see some questions from the chat. How early do you receive the opponent's choice of ban? That's a good question.
We receive it at midnight PST. Right there, if RF does the NATO like right away, that activates King Tower and we win the game.
Oh yeah, so right there. Let me take it back one more time because we talked about this on broadcast. That a miss NATO, I kind of feel like is one of the one of the worst moments you can have in gameplay. It's like the 3 elixir down the drain, especially against a charged up Prince.
Absolutely. And you could even argue that I don't think. Oh my goodness. It might have even just like helped them even more because I don't know if the prince was even going to charge. Like,
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, let's look at that
man,
one more time. I'm gonna take
I'm
that.
gonna have a talk with him
Let's take that back
after
one more
this.
time here, and we'll take a look at it. Now the miss here is this. I'll go ahead and pause it right. Let me see if I can get it to the right spot. Did he need to be playing? You said he needed to be playing a little bit earlier, or what was made this a miss here?
So if you choose to NATO that, if once it's like charged up, you just have no chance.
Yeah.
So it either needs to be you know that the prince is going to charge on magic archer, and the split second it's hitting it, you need to be pulling it, or it's too late for it, and you have to spend a different card for that.
Yeah, and so here you go. It charges up just as the NATO comes in, and that's a couple big shots. Let's see some questions. Uh, let's see. What's the game plan going into 2v2 as a whole without a ban? How did not having the ban change your game plan today?
Well, it's kind of weird because obviously when you're practicing 2v2s, you practice for, let's say, we were planning on banning a giant skeleton. So we had actually prepared a double giant skeleton ban, which is technically what this becomes. So we definitely would prefer to have the ban, but we were actually completely ready for it.
Oh, interesting. So you guys were planning on I thought you guys were planning on going NATO with this and going giant skelly here.
We
Uh,
were we were focused on the NATO giant skeleton, but we always run a bunch of different bands before a game just
sure.
to see if we want to switch anything up at the end.
So here's the moment where they take an even bigger lead. Miner comes in and they rage everything up. Did you expect that this was going to be rage once you saw that it was giant double prince?
We were pretty sure Earthquake's pretty bad right now, so weren't. We definitely didn't expect Earthquake to be there, and so the rage kind of caught us off guard, but at the same time, we were definitely ready for it.
To answer a question in the chat, when I say roster submitted, I mean sending in who's playing in 2v2 and 1v1 and what the bans are. You guys, the decks are not pre-submitted. That is not. I mean that you guys plan the decks out obviously, but they're not pre-submitted. Um, Tornado's still super polarizing. So here we go. You guys are down to 445. It really, at this point, looks like it's going to be a clean 2-0 sweep to Sam. What are you and RF saying at this moment as we get into double elixir?
Well, rage decks, usually they don't have double heavy spells. So we recognize, okay, if we're going to have a chance at winning this, we need to stack. We need to win each and every bridge battle. And we just need to be getting value with our spells.
And this became an interesting theme in both this game and the next game. Is the lack of that second big spell with the rage spell being in there, right? It takes up a spell. It takes up a slot. Usually, you'd see a big spell in the hand of Morten as well as Sam, and in this case, you don't. So that ends up being kind of a big thing in both of these games. So you guys get a decent chunk back down here. And really, so it's just stacking and trying to get spell damage and keeping them from putting anything in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Prince and Giant, and they did this in both games. I think I definitely did. They did it in this one. Oh, this is about the game. Let's take that back a second. Andrew and I thought that this Giant was a mistake from them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You could have done like I don't know if they could have fully kited, but for sure you put the giant a little bit lower, so that way everything gets stuck, but where the tower can still shoot it.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, that's 5 elixir that just gets completely eviscerated. We'll take it back a little bit more. 5 elixir just gets you Prince, Mega Knight, Skellies, and Hunter. And then whose NATO was this? Was this RF's NATO?
Yeah, that's our NATO.
That's RF's NATO. That's your Magic Archer. Now, were you guys communicating on that one? Were you like, hey, I'm going to go Archer here? Or did he just read that once you put it down?
No, I was hovering over the placement, and then as soon as I placed it down, he was ready with the NATO.
And then the other question here is this double miner play, right? This is a beautiful play. One of you goes miner to the back outside corner, and then the other, that miner to the front, was that just the pre-planned miner, or was that miner to pick up that Dark Prince?
It wasn't to pick it up, but we were pretty sure that they didn't have the elixir. Also, fantastic skeleton kite right there. Not necessary, but still cool.
Yeah.
We knew they didn't really have the elixir to be able to stop 2 separate placements. And so as soon as he did that minor, I just put it lower, and then we were pretty sure either they predict the first one but don't get the second, or it's able to block or something like that.
So taking a look back at the decks one more time, and this was the I'm going to go ahead and pause that for a moment. So this was the Giant Double Prince with Rage, and Cool Quartz saying isn't getting value off Rage spell much easier in 2v2 since there are almost twice as many units on the field. I'll throw that your direction, AC.
Yeah, I mean, really with Rage, you only see it with Sparky in 1v1s, and obviously Sparky isn't really viable for the 2v2. And even though Rage isn't technically that great in 2v2, you'll still see it in Giant, you'll see it in Lava, you'll see it in Golem, and every once in a while you'll see it with just a different deck. And it's not the best card, but definitely in terms of surprise factor, you can get so much value just from a 2 elixir card.
Yeah, not to mention it does speed up the cycle a little bit compared to if you're running Lumberjack in that same spot. But
Yeah,
then you do, of
absolutely.
course, you sacrifice the choice of a spell. So let's go ahead and let me get us ready for the third and final game of that 2v2. Which okay, there we go. Let me pop out that bad boy for a second and get this thing queued up. That's going to be over here. Oh, it actually already picked it up nicely. All right. So then here was the third matchup. Taking a look at this one. This was the double golem, and again with Rage. So you were just talking about how Rage fits into a certain few archetypes, including this one. And then you guys, is this the exact same deck you guys ran in game one?
Yep.
And
Yep.
And why'd you go back to it for the third game?
Well, we were pretty sure because I mean, bait graveyard usually like destroys regular graveyard. So we felt that we played it well enough where if we can get that close with the King Tower activation immediately, all that kind of stuff, that we were pretty confident going into game 3 with that. Especially considering RF is one of the best graveyard players out there, easily maybe the best. So we felt they probably wouldn't go back to the bait graveyard, and even if they did, we were willing to take that chance because we thought we would be able to beat any matchup that went against us.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I'm sorry. I'm seeing the chat here asking a great question. AC, do you pick yourself in fantasy, or do you pick somebody else from your team?
Oh my goodness, I didn't do fantasy again. Both weeks I forgot to do it.
Yeah. Well, big rip. Although I was going back and forth, and I said this on Twitter, I was going back and forth for my fourth fantasy pick between RF and Canario, or between RF and Morten. And it was last weekend that convinced me I should go with RF for this week, the way you guys played 2v2 last weekend. So I'm certainly happy with the way you guys did today. Let's go ahead and take a look at game number 3. Let me back it up a little bit. We're before the beginning. So let's see. Any other questions from the chat to take a look at? That was my favorite one, though. Oh, and we'll answer this once we get past the 1v1, but we'll line this one up. From one of our fake LaPoKaTis, by the way, I don't know if you know this, AC, but there are no less than 10 various fake LaPoKaTis in my group of followers. We call them the FLG, the fake Lapo gang. Over here. Yeah, it's pretty rad. But they were asking what was your plan, what was your King of the Hill going to look like if it did go there?
It was It was definitely going to be RF. I don't know which what the order was going to be, but it was going to be RF and then Samuel and Lampo. The thing is, it's such a hard question for me to answer, considering we always know that it's not going to get that far.
Fair enough. I like that. That's why this is one of the reasons why I think you and Luis go well together. Is the equal belief in your skills over idea. There was no idea with no ban. To answer that question again, it was a penalty for not submitting the ban early enough. So there you go. So you get Golem here in the last game, and once you realize this was the matchup, what were your thoughts? Did you feel pretty good about it?
So if we had a better cycle, we would have felt really, really good. But the thing is, we had to use MK early, and then I tried to get the prediction log on top of the Heal Spirit, and I do predict it, but it's just a little bit too late. And because it was just a little bit too late,
Night Witch gets extra value. I think like Prince got to charge on something, and we go down just a massive amount
Here,
in one push.
yeah, we'll take this push back a little bit here, because this is again the same. It's sort of the same verse, second verse, same as the first, right? You guys go down real hard early. So this was that you guys just didn't have it. What did you want to have in hand? I mean, first of all, let's go back to when you played the Mega Knight. Do you remember what you had in hand when you did have to play the Mega Knight, or when RF had to play the Mega Knight?
So that means he would have had the 4 remaining. So it was Poison, which you can't poison a Prince, Graveyard. Oh, I forgot the deck.
I can tell you. So it would have been, Poison, Graveyard, Heal Spirit, and NATO. So
Okay,
one of those would have been the whole card still.
And so what was the next card? So it would have had to be. Yeah, I mean he can maybe cycle Heal Spirit, but he definitely might not have even had Heal Spirit in hand. And either way, he's forced to play it way too early, which is just really tough for us.
Yeah, we'll go back and take a look at it one more time. The Mega Knight comes out super early. Of course, Prince going to do a ton of damage on the Mega Knight. Night Witch comes down, and you try to get the Heal Spirit, but it jumps over the log. The high poison trying to take that off, but once the Heal Spirit comes in, not going to do much. And then you see RF try to NATO all this away here. Baby Dragon holds off a little bit, but once the Musketeer gets on board, that's just a pile of damage on the right hand side. So pretty brutal sequence there to open things up. I mean, obviously you guys stayed in. Obviously you guys ended up winning the game, but I mean, did you think you were dead at this point? Did you feel like you had a pretty good chance at this point? What were you guys talking about?
Our main focus was to try and tower trade. So as soon as they put the goal down, we're like, okay, this is it. This is we need to be winning bridge battles. I was really happy with the Baby Dragon because I know they can't spend elixir up there, and so since that kills it early, the Mega Knight and Prince get a lot more value because of that.
Yeah, and you guys get an okay little chunk here. The Prince doesn't connect, but the Mega Knight does get a leap. I remember this one pretty well, and the Prince gets caught there at the end, but takes the Dark Prince off the board.
Yeah.
And then here you guys are. And what's the plan for keeping? I mean, I guess this is the plan, right? It's Dark Prince, Goblin Cage, and no NATO this time around.
Yeah, and we're okay with stacking a little bit extra on the right because not only do we need to make sure that we're not giving away any free damage, we know that they're going to have to spend elixir on the right, or it's going to get like a decent amount of pressure on that lane. And then we were pretty confident on the left lane that we were still going to be able to get a good push going.
So this Mega Knight runs into a whole lot of DPS, but now they've got a ton of elixir in the wrong lane, not where they want it to be. Easily picked up by the Dark Prince. You guys went Baby Dragon as well. So this we thought was the end of the game right here. It's a nice catch that they get the shield off and still get the Dark Prince. But we looked at this and thought that this was what lost SK the game.
Yeah. I mean, it's mostly just we're going to see it right here. He's going to spend 4 elixir for the Gob Cage, and that's just too much when you don't have... I mean, you're using Rage as that 2 elixir spell, and so if you don't have anything other than the log, you need to make sure that you either stack everything so that it can't cross the bridge, or you have to have that elixir. Or even a defensive NATO would work on the graveyard.
Yeah, defensive NATO would have been good here, and we'll take it back a little bit. So that because we'll see that lightning. So Morten is the one with the lightning. Morten lightens that off, but that takes him down to 0, right? And they don't have they can't really pressure that right hand side once you guys put the graveyard down. And I mean, even the lightning on defense there might have been more to get some of those support troops off from up high.
Absolutely. That part was pretty fun for us because we were like trying to decide whether or not we wanted to NATO everything together or NATO Musketeer opposite lane, and then the tower went down, and so we just kind of chuckled at that.
Just kind of enjoyed yourselves. So, that one worked out fairly nicely, and you guys went into set number 2 with the advantage. I mean, this obviously you guys are doing great, as we said. I don't know if it was in the video yet, so I'll say it again here. That you and RF are tied for the most ever wins in Clash Royale CRL regular season play for 2v2 at 52. And so far the winningest duo in 2v2. So very nice. GG, well played. And then that takes us into the 1v1. And LaPoKaTi had also, like a lot of the team overall, had kind of a down season in the fall. But it looks like LaPoKaTi is right back to the same form he was in the spring season from 2019.
Yeah, absolutely. He's so good with minor cycle decks. You saw it when he was running the Prince Inferno Tower deck. Every single time, something's out of cycle, he's able to recognize it immediately, applies pressure. I know he got at least one Prince lock on the tower. And yeah, he's just playing out of his mind right now. And as soon as we get the 2v2 win, I can pretty much stop watching. I started to read a little bit before the second set just because we were just really confident at that point.
So here we go. Let's take a look at Lapo and Javi. This was a pretty clean 2-0 here from Lapo. Game number 1 was, and this is interesting. This giant or this minor Prince deck that was so popular a few months back is now back to being popular again. This was from a spring season deck. I'll go ahead and for a second here show you guys the matchup. So there you have it. This is that giant minor Prince, or that minor Prince Spear Goblins deck that was really popular back in the spring, and then Lapo here running Graveyard, which we don't see a ton. And I'm curious about this one. What is it that has made Graveyard and Night Witch work so well together? Because this was not an archetype we saw last year, really, that has really kind of roared to the forefront of Graveyard play in 2020.
I think it's mostly due to the fact that like Royal Delivery gets so much value if you try and stack. So when you have so many bats stacking up, and Royal Delivery doesn't even do close to killing off the Night Witch, that it just gets so much value, forces out poisons, and then you can actually get guaranteed damage with the graveyards. That'd be my best guess.
Yeah. Okay. Taking a look. This one, I think that the matchup goes a little bit for. I mean, the data says it goes a little bit for Lapo here. Having bats, poison, all these different options.
Basically, it's roughly 50-50. It's like roughly 60-40 for Javi until it hits triple elixir. And so if he doesn't win the game, or at least have it like fully under control, once it hits triple elixir, it's like 100-0 for Lapo. So if Lapo just survives, then he wins.
And yeah, chat's pretty excited to be watching Lapo. I mean, my viewers in particular are pretty big LaPoKaTi fans because the FLG, Fake Lapo Gang shout out. This one was interesting. We talked a bit about this on broadcast. Lapo has struggled a bit in the fall season, but seems to be completely confident again, playing great. What's the difference? What's going on? What's happened between fall and now?
Well, I mean, my best guess is, he's from Belarus. His English is, phenomenal compared to what it used to be. Like he can go on a Discord call and we can talk in English, and he's fine for the most part. But I mean, it had to be great for him to get back home, see his family, all that stuff. It's hard moving out of the country when you're 16 years old. Like I know for a fact I couldn't have done that at 16, 17, or 18. Even now, I would struggle with that. So I would say that mostly comes down to the fact that, it's hard to adjust to that kind of thing. And, I know there was like one time where he was like awake at 4 just to talk to his parents. So it can be really tough, especially if you're young.
Sure. Yeah, it's something you don't really think about burden-wise in terms of traveling to play professionally. So here we are. We're ending regular time, getting into sudden death, and this seems like it's all going the way that Javi wants it. Right? He's firmly in command. He's got plenty of counters to the graveyard at the moment. And is it just that he didn't get far enough ahead against the graveyard before triple?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's like maybe you don't use poison on defense, but I mean, the entire time you have to be just pressuring the bridge constantly. Like Prince, every time you have Prince in hand, you should be like rushing the bridge pretty much. And so he just did not do nearly enough of that. And so, I mean, going into like this right here, great graveyard push because it wastes the 20 seconds that he could have had like one last push before triple elixir. And then at this point, he just starts stacking everything in the back.
Yeah, this gets rough. And also, you see the damage is split between lanes, too. So, it ends up kind of putting him behind as well. Chat is asking, do you guys have analysts other than the team and Luis helping you guys make your decisions?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm pretty sure it always comes down to Luis and the player that's playing.
Okay, so here we go. Miner into the left-hand side, get some good damage. And this is what we thought on broadcast was the point where LaPoKaTi secured the victory, right? So Miner, let me back it up a little bit more here. He sets up Nightwish on the right-hand side and just decides, I'm not going to defend that Miner at all. Goes Mega Knight right. He'd been catching Miners with E-Wiz a little bit beforehand. Goes with the E-Wiz in the middle to stop the Prince, but it felt like this was the moment where it was GG, well played, and Javi secured the victory.
Yeah, so when he put down the Goblin Cage, and I think it was with like a minute and 5, minute 10, he was up 4 elixir. And so Javi goes in with a Miner. That's another -3. He's starting to stack. And then with the Ice Golem Prince push, that's 7 elixir. And because of the way he was defending, using the Gob Cage instead of using like the E-Wiz to tank the Prince shot or anything like that, even though he spent 11 elixir on a 7 elixir push, he didn't lose any of the 11 elixir troops. And so at that point, he's up like 20 elixir in terms of value from troops. And at that point, you just stack as many troops as you possibly can at the bridge.
And this was a big moment that kind of finished things off. The Graveyard tanking for the Night Witch. So she just goes ham on the right-hand side. And at this point, that's GG, well played. All she wrote. And you guys are now, at this point, coming into match point. So let's go ahead and skip ahead here a little bit to the final game. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the matchup from the last one there. That should be changing. There we go. Let's take a look at this matchup from the last one. So final game, it's Javi goes with GY, and people have been taking Bomb Tower out a little bit and going back to Tombstone a bit with the Prince being in here. Do you think that would have changed things much, or was this? This one from the you can see the matchup data from Royale API's perspective that this should be all for Javi. So I'm kind of curious about your thoughts as how Lapo pulls this one out.
Honestly, like that kind of matchup is 100% skewed. Like it's impossible to get like an accurate depiction of what should happen.
Sure.
Because the people who are going to be playing these decks are usually going to be more on the casual side because it's so popular. And I think. Yeah, I think the matchup is pretty clearly for Lapo just because he knows what he's supposed to do. Ice Wizard and Baby Dragon should technically be getting value in this matchup, but the way he uses his miners and he uses his Prince, they don't get value ever.
Yeah, for a second here, I thought that maybe Javi was going to Ice Bow after we saw what Igor did in the first game or in the first match, which we'll talk about that. I'll get around and talk to them about that one after you and I finish talking about your guys' match today.
Mm-hmm.
So from your perspective here, casuals have sort of upset what the actual matchup is here between these two decks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you saw that play, that is just brilliant. He goes in like he has. Can you go back a little bit more?
Yeah. I'll take it back a little bit more here.
I want to know why he cycled the bats. So just one more.
Oh, let's go back one more. Okay, here we go. I'll take it back. Double.
Okay.
So the bats come out for the night, it looks like.
Yeah, so the bats come out for the night, and then he uses the wall breakers after the bats have already crossed. And so even though, Javi got pretty lucky right there to clip the wall breakers because he's just cycling at that point, it feels like. Maybe he was just really, really quick. But the bats force out the Baby Dragon as well instead of just the Bar Barrel. And so that's a dead Baby Dragon. It doesn't get any value whatsoever on the Prince. And then he's able to pressure even more.
And so here you go, and the spears forcing the knight out to pick up the Prince and to defend against the spears. And so here we are, where that knight's nothing. So Lapo's now up 2. And was that just a cycle log at that point?
No, so basically it gets value on the night, and then if Javi catches the miner either reactively or like before the miner had actually went up, the log would have got value on the ice whiz, and then it would have killed off the ice whiz as well. And
Um,
then had it killed off the ice whiz, Bar Barrel wouldn't have done enough, and he would have been forced to NATO that as well.
Cool Quartz asking, is it risky for a CRL Pro to run a single elixir optimized deck?
Uh, it's kind of it feels like every deck is risky, honestly, because only a best of three. Sometimes you say use your best decks and hope you get at least somewhat favorable matchups, and then sometimes if you use your best decks and you get terrible matchups, like for Animan's case, uh, it's just everything is risky.
So I like this. I mean, so many spells forced out on the left-hand side. And this is what we were thinking that maybe this on the right-hand side. So here you go. He forces out the Bar Barrel. He already forced out the NATO. Was this a miss on picking up the Knight, or was this intentionally played with the Spear Goblins that high?
It's definitely a miss, but he still is able to get value because of that. And so it ends up, even though it is a miss, it ends up, even when he makes mistakes, he still gets the value from the troops that he's looking for.
And then you see the connection there left-hand side. Yeah, it was like a 50-50 miss. It was like you wanted to play them that high no matter what. If they catch the Knight, great. If they don't, it's not that big of a bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Miner's just uncatchable on the left-hand side for Javi, it seems, at the moment. And again, this is another one where there's these moments where it seems like it's GG, and it felt like that high Inferno Tower was the end of the game in this one as well.
Yeah, he's forced to play like everything from the back, and at that point with 13 seconds left, for a fact Lapo's going to be able to take that tower, and you had to apply a little bit more pressure, but it's just so hard once you're in that spot.
Yeah, and so Graveyard does come in. Prince doesn't connect, but the spears are going to be enough. Zap finishes it off. GG, well played. And there you go. I'll show you guys the matchup one more time. Javi doesn't even get the poison involved at any point. And this is one of those ones where, again, like you're talking about how the matchup has a little skewed. You'd say that this one leans toward Lapo, in fact. So here you are. You guys are 2-0 on the season. And a really important 2-0 because that 2-0 is against the top two other pieces of competition in your group. That's against SK and Team Queso. Although I would say there's an argument here that Misfits might be the one of the hardest outs you guys have to face, the way that they looked last weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously we feel great. Misfits is still on the schedule. Pain, they haven't shown anything yet, so they definitely could surprise people and put in work in the season. I think what I do is I look at Kobe. I remember it was like game 3 or something in the finals, and he had like a 2-0 lead, something like that. And the reporter was asking why he wasn't smiling, and he said it's because the job isn't finished. So obviously it feels good, but at the same time we can't, let our foot off the pedal. We got to keep practicing, keep grinding, and in 2 weeks hopefully we're 4-0.
Fair enough. Yeah, you guys can see AC, RF, Lapo, and maybe Bassotto if you even get there at some point next weekend. That's Saturday the 13th. Taking on the Brazilians of Pain Gaming, who by the time this is up, you might have already seen them play. I don't know if they'll be 1-0 or 0-1, but you can see them on Saturday. And of course, AC, where can they find you on? You're on Twitter and Twitch, right?
Yeah, Twitter, it's Craaap with 4 A's in the Craaap, and with Twitch, I made sure to make the branding hard. It's Craaap with 3 A's in the Craaap. But for both of them, I'm famous enough where if you just type in the first 3 letters, I should pop up pretty early.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that flex. Look at that big flex. Thank you very much. And for those of you watching this, if you're here on Trovo right now, we're going to keep on talking, and we're going to go into Team Liquid here and their performance, Igor's performance against Chivas today in a moment. But if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe right up here. The next video will be right here. AC's contact info will all be in the show notes, although he's so big, you don't need it. Give me all the love, and I will see you guys on YouTube another time. Peace.